So welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. In this lecture series, we cover a particular day's current affairs in a very short span of time within 30 minutes. The idea behind this lecture series is that you get to cover your current affairs on a daily basis, but you don't have to spend your entire day just reading the newspaper. Therefore, we shall cover the entire day's current affairs within 30 minutes. But just watching this lecture would be job half done, because just after watching it, you need to revise it as well, and you can revise it from our notes. These notes are shared on our Telegram channel, whose link is given in the comment section below. Okay, then let's begin today's discussion. But first, let's take a look at the list of topics that we shall cover today. Okay, so let's get on with the lecture. So daily current affairs, 19 June, Thursday. What topics we shall cover? Number one, we'll talk about India-Armenia Alliance. There is a very close relationship between India and Armenia, so we will investigate that. And this basic close relation is coming in really handy when India has to evacuate many Indians who are stuck in Iran. So we'll talk about this close relationship. Then we'll talk about Magna Carta, because June 15th marked the anniversary of Magna Carta, and this Magna Carta was basically the document that ushered in liberal democracy in the entire world. It is the foundational document in which all the liberal democracies of the world are right now based. So what was this Magna Carta? We'll talk about this. Then recently, QS World University Rankings 2026 have come out, and in that, from India, IIT Delhi has topped. It has secured 123 rank. Now yes, no Indian university is in the top 100, but nonetheless, this 123 rank is still a big achievement for IIT Delhi. So we will talk about this QS World University Rankings, what is the criteria used by them to give rankings to different universities, and how many Indian universities are there in their rankings. Okay, we'll talk about this. And in the end, we'll talk about a defense related news, because we have basically built a ship which is used for anti-submarine warfare. The ship is called INS Arnala. This will be used to target enemy submarines, and it has been inducted in Indian Navy. So what is this INS Arnala? What are its capabilities? We'll talk about this in the end. Alright, so these are the four topics that we shall zero in our attention on. Let's start discussing them one by one, starting with India-Armenia Alliance. Okay, so look, Israel and Iran are in a warlike situation, and situation is not that great in Iran. Many people are fleeing Iran. Many people are fleeing the capital of Iran called Tehran. Many Iranians are fleeing from there. Now there are around 4,500 Indians stuck in Iran. Okay, and they want to come back home. Half of these Indians are students. Therefore, to basically bring these Indians who are stuck in Iran back home, India has launched Operation Sindhu. Okay, so Operation Sindhu is basically saving all these Indians who are stuck in Iran. The problem is that currently Iranian airspace is closed because Israel and Iran are fighting an air battle. Therefore, Iranian airspace is closed. Therefore, you cannot evacuate these Indians from an airport in Tehran. You have to smuggle these Indians, or you have to take these Indians out of Iran from a land border. Okay, Iran shares a land border with many countries. So you have to basically first shift these Indians from Iran to some other country with which Iran shares a land border, and then from their airport, you have to evacuate these Indians from that other country's airport. Okay. Now Iran shares a land border with many countries. Okay. One such country is Armenia, and Armenia is helping Indians or Indian government to evacuate these Indians from Iran. Okay. Now the question arises, why aren't other countries who are sharing a land border with Iran not so helpful towards India? So let's talk about the problems of evacuating Indians from Iran. Clear? Make sense? And then we'll talk about India-Armenia relationship, how Armenia is coming in handy, how Armenia is helping India, and why is Armenia helping India? Okay, we'll talk about this. So India-Armenia Alliance, which is really coming in handy for India's Operation Sindhu, which is basically evacuating around 4,500 Indians from Iran. Clear? Now, Look at this map, challenge of evacuation. As you can see, this is the map of Iran, okay, close map of Iran. Now the problem is that currently Iranian airspace is closed. Therefore, Indians who are in Iran cannot be you cannot evacuate them from an airport in Tehran because the airspace is closed. Therefore, you have to first smuggle them to any of the neighboring countries of Iran, and from that neighboring country's airport, you'll bring them back home to India. Now the problem is, Iran shares its borders with, well, Azerbaijan, as you can see, okay, Turkey, and on the eastern side it is Pakistan. Clear? So Azerbaijan is there, Pakistan is there, Turkey is there. All three countries do not share warm relationship with India, especially post Operation Sindoor. Therefore, we can exclude these countries out. Okay. Then there is Iraq, Turkmenistan, and Armenia. As the green portion over here is Armenia. Okay. Now, Turkmenistan, the land border with Turkmenistan is basically sparsely populated, scarcely populated. Okay. And there are not many roads and good connectivity is not there. So it is a logistical challenge. Clear? When it comes to Iraq, well, Iraq itself is involved in this conflict. Okay. Many of the airports of Iraq are closed because Iraq is involved in this conflict somehow, because Israeli planes would be coming and crossing Iraqi airspace. Clear? So Iraq cannot help you out. The only country that is left that can help you out and shares very good relationship with you is Armenia. Therefore, we are using this 44-kilometer wide border between Iran and Armenia to first transport Indians stuck in Iran from Iran to Armenia, and then from Armenian airport back home in India. Okay, so Armenia is cooperating with India with respect to Operation Sindhu. Clear? Now the thing is, why is Armenia cooperating with India? Though on humanitarian grounds, any country would cooperate with India, but Armenia has a special relationship with India. Clear? What is that special relationship? Why Armenia? So as you can see, problem with Turkmenistan, problem with Iraq, problem with Armenia to the rescue. The 44-kilometer long India-Armenia border is thus the most viable option for Indian evacuees, especially since Tehran and the Nurduz-Agarak crossing, the border crossing, is just 730 kilometers apart from Tehran, and it has a major highway. Now, why is basically Armenia helping India? Because Armenia and India share a very warm relationship. Delhi, Yerevan, the capital of Armenia, ties. And the reason why Armenia shares a very warm relationship with India is because Armenia does not share a very warm relation with Turkey and Azerbaijan. Both Turkey and Azerbaijan are basically the enemies of Armenia. In fact, Armenia was involved in a war with Azerbaijan, which is famously known as Nagorno-Karabakh War. Where is Nagorno-Karabakh? We'll talk about that some other time. As of now, just understand that this major Nagorno-Karabakh war was fought between Armenia and Azerbaijan was helped by Turkey. Many Turkish drones were used in this war by Azerbaijan. So Armenia does not share a very good relationship with Turkey and Azerbaijan. And India does not share a very good relationship with Turkey and Azerbaijan. So on that account, basically, well, the enemy of your enemy is your friend. That logic, that centuries old logic is being used in this India-Armenia relationship. Okay. So first is Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. Then, do you know that India is helping very closely? India is basically helping Armenia a lot in this conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Do you know that India is the largest military supplier of Armenia? Earlier it used to be Russia, but now India has even overtaken Russia to become the largest military supplier to Armenia. So we share a very close defense relationship. That's why Armenia values our partnership a lot. Plus, Armenia has supported our stand on Kashmir in the past. Plus, Armenia also supports our permanent seat at United Nations Security Council. So Armenia supports our international claims on Kashmir and UNSC permanent seat. We are the largest military supplier to Armenia. This basically, both these two things basically creates the foundation for a very warm, strong and strategic relationship between India and Armenia. And that is why Armenia is our most reliable partner in this Operation Sindhu, which is about evacuating Indians stuck in Iran from Iran. Make sense? So now you understand why Armenia is very important for India. Delhi-Yerevan ties. Yerevan, the capital of Armenia. I hope you got that. Okay. Though, do take a look at this news item from your notes. It's very important. Some extra information would also be given in your notes. So do check that out. But this is the background of this entire issue. Make sense? Okay. Now let's move forward to next news item, which is what is Magna Carta? Okay. So in 1215, there was a document signed by the King of England, King John. And that document was signed between King of England, King John, and his barons or his feudal lords, which were subordinate to him. And this document basically limited the power of king and somehow established rule of law. Clear? Now, after the signing of Magna Carta, many events happened. But many people say that Magna Carta is the foundation of democracy in the world. It is for the very first time that limits were put on the power of king, and those limits were related to rule of law. So rule of law traces its origin in modern times from this Magna Carta document. And many constitutions of the world today, like American Constitution, Indian Constitution, take inspiration from this historical document Magna Carta way back in 1215. Now, June 15th marked the anniversary, 800th almost anniversary of, not 800, more than 800 years, anniversary of Magna Carta. Therefore, because it is such a significant historical document, it is important for us to know about this document. Okay, so let's talk about what is Magna Carta. As you can see in this picture, this is King of England, King John, and these are his barons. Okay, barons or feudal lords. So basically, first of all, let me tell you who are these barons. Okay, under any king there are many feudal lords. So what happened back in the day was that there were many powerful, influential people who were given land grants on large swathes of land by the king. These land grants were given to these powerful people who were known as barons. The barons were allowed to collect land revenue from that place in exchange for loyalty towards the king. So whenever the king had to go to war, the barons would supply troops from their land. Okay, and they used to be subordinate to the king. Clear? But something happened and the barons got together and forced the king to sign this document called Magna Carta. And in this document, basically the barons limited the power of the king. Okay, the power of the king was limited, and it was said that he can't punish anyone except for the violation of law. So basically rule of law got introduced through that. Nonetheless, about Magna Carta. So Magna Carta was sealed at a time when King John witnessed several military failures. So what happened was King John lost a lot of wars. And the biggest war that he lost was with King of France. Okay, he lost a war with France. That made him unpopular. Okay, when you lose a war, you become a little unpopular. Plus, because the king was losing wars, he was desperate for revenge and he was desperate to win back the territories lost in the war. So he raised taxes. Now he was already very unpopular, and then after raising taxes, he became even more unpopular. Now there were some revolts, rebellions, people were not happy with him. Now when people won't be happy with you, what will happen? The king, to maintain his power, has to become dictatorial, cruel, has to give out a lot of punishments. That made him even more unpopular. Okay. Then he started persecuting some of the barons who were not that loyal to him. Therefore, all these lords, all these barons, all these feudal lords got together and they refused loyalty towards the king. Now, the king was desperate for their loyalty because he was ready to fight another war with France. He was desperate for the troops provided by these barons. Now, the barons said that in exchange for our loyalty, you have to sign this document. This document was called Magna Carta. Okay. Now, the king's defeat, look at the history. The Magna Carta was sealed at a time when King John witnessed several military failures. In 1204, the King of France took Normandy and Anjou. To fund expeditions to take back those lands, John raised taxes. The king's defeat led to increased power of the barons, who forced the king to cede some of his powers in exchange for their loyalty. Okay? And this document basically was way ahead of its time, because back then people were used to kings and queens, okay, monarchy. But this document was the first of its kind because this basically limited the powers of the king. And this introduced the concept of rule of law. Basically, in this document, it was written that the king cannot punish anyone except for the violation of law. Nobody's individual liberty can be curtailed by the king. All these things which are part of fundamental rights of India, fundamental rights of America, and fundamental rights of all the great democracies, great liberal democracies of the world, well, they were written in Magna Carta. So we can safely say that Magna Carta laid the foundation of liberal democratic order in the world, or it was the foundation stone. It was the beginning of liberal democratic order in the world. Clear? So this is the thing. Okay. Now, what is the significance of this Magna Carta? Very simple. It was the foundation of liberal democratic order. Just remember, it was signed in June 15th, 1215. Way back in 13th century, when India was under Delhi Sultanate. Okay, this was being done in England. This established the concept of rule of law. It gave certain rights to the people. Okay, under this Magna Carta, okay, some rights were given to the people. Those rights are still exist. I mean, they still exist as part of fundamental rights in India, Bill of Rights in England, Bill of Rights in America. Okay, like certain rights like individual liberty, you cannot arrest anyone except for or execute anyone except for the violation of law. All these things were mentioned in Magna Carta. And American Constitution, Indian Constitution, British rule of law concept, all these things were inspired from this document. It gave birth to fundamental rights. Plus, the biggest thing, or the reason why I say Magna Carta was way ahead of its time, is because, well, back then nobody knew this concept of limiting the power of a king. People were used to kings having unlimited power. Okay, but this document limited the power of king, limitation on arbitrary power, and it became the symbol of freedom. This document laid the foundation of British Parliament later in history. But such was the significance of this document. Okay, Magna Carta, very famous thing, very famous historical document. Clear? That's about it. That's all you need to know as far as this topic is concerned. And now let's move on to third topic of the day, third topic of this lecture, and that is QS World University Rankings, in which IIT Delhi secured the top spot from India. Okay. Now, QS is basically a think tank, Quacquarelli Simons. Okay, it is a think tank, education related, higher education related think tank based in London. And it basically releases various reports. Every year it releases a report called World University Rankings. And in those World University Rankings, it basically ranks different universities of the world. Okay, it basically surveys around 1500 educational institutions. And after surveying all these 1500 educational institutions based on their performance, okay, it gives out rankings. Now, no Indian institution has ever featured in the top 100. Okay, the closest to top 100, well, it was not top 100, but the closest to top 100 was IIT Bombay some years back. Okay, and IIT Bombay from India has been topping the charts from India, institutions from India. Okay, but this time around, IIT Delhi beat IIT Bombay by becoming the 123rd, by securing 123rd rank. Okay, IIT Bombay's rank was a little lower, okay, or little behind. IIT Delhi topped IIT Bombay. Okay, that was in the news. But this is not important for us as far as civil services preparation is concerned. What we need to know is what is this QS rankings? Okay, what is the criteria and what has been the history so far? And which institutions top this list every time? Obviously, US universities would top it, but still, we need to have this information. So let's talk about it, okay? So QS World University Rankings. Okay, so about it. So QS World University Rankings, the QS stands for Qua Quacquarelli-Simons. So QS World University Rankings are a globally recognized university ranking system compiled by Quacquarelli-Simons, a higher education analytics firm based in London. Universities are evaluated on 4 dimensions. So remember this. Every university is evaluated, surveyed on these 4 dimensions. Okay, research, teaching quality, employability of students passing out from those universities, and international outlook. By international outlook, you are basically checking how many international foreign teachers are teaching at that university, how many foreign students are there at that university. Okay, international outlook. Now, to basically evaluate universities on these 4 core dimensions, there are certain indicators, 6 indicators. So what are these 6 indicators? Academic reputation, the reputation of that university, it has 40% weightage. Faculty student ratio, it has 20% weightage. Citations per faculty, research papers published by faculty members, 20%. Employer reputation, the reputation of that university among employers, like for example all the big companies, how much they value this particular university, that they are willing to hire people from this university. Okay, that is 10%. International faculty, international students. Clear? So these are the 6 metrics on which basically rankings are given. Now, this is, I mean, you need to know this much only as far as these rankings are concerned. Now, let's talk about what were the results of this World University Rankings 2026. Okay. So, some other facts. So, globally, MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, secured rank 1. Okay. Topped the list for 14th year straight. It was followed by Imperial College of London, then Stanford University again in US, University of Oxford in England, Harvard University in US. Okay. So, US and UK. Basically, they have the world's best universities. For the number of institutions on the list overall, India ranked 4th. So like I said, it basically surveys 1500 institutions. So India has 54 institutions in this 1500 list, in this ranking. USA has 192, UK has 90 and China has 72. So India is ranked 4th in the number of institutions in these rankings. So India has 54 institutions in these rankings. Now, over the past decade, IIT Bombay, Delhi and Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore have stood up in the top 3 positions from India. But this time around, the top rank has been given to IIT Delhi, though for the last 10 years, IIT Bombay stood first as far as institutions from India are concerned. Clear? That's about it. That's all you need to know. And now let's quickly jump to last topic of the day, which is also very short, and that is Navy inducts INS Arnala. Now, as you all know, post Operation Sindoor, our focus on defense preparedness has increased significantly. Plus, we have also realized that we need to make weapons on our own. We can't rely on imports of weapons. Okay, we need to create a military industrial complex of our own. So first, we need more defense equipment because we need to be prepared. Operation Sindoor has revealed that fact to us. Second, we can't rely on foreign equipment. We have to make indigenous weapons, Indian weapons, improve our military industrial complex. Okay? Now, we have taken so many steps in that direction. Now, one achievement for indigenous manufacturing of weapon system in India is induction of INS Arnala into Indian Navy. Okay? Now, INS Arnala is like 80% of INS Arnala is manufactured in India. So it has 80% of indigenous content. So it is a good achievement for us. Plus, INS Arnala is very significant because INS Arnala is a ship that can destroy submarines. Okay, it can destroy submarines. And submarines are very important for any navy. So if any war-like situation happens between India and any other country, okay, that country, if that enemy country uses its naval power, it will definitely use submarines, and India needs to be prepared. In that regard, INS Arnala is significant. Okay, so let's talk about this. Navy inducts INS Arnala. So in the news, INS Arnala, the first of India's anti-submarine warfare shallow water craft. It is used in shallow waters, not deep oceans. So this INS Arnala is for anti-submarine warfare, okay? And it is a shallow water craft. So it will be used in shallow waters. Now, what does it mean to be used in shallow waters? It will be used basically for coastal security. Because near the coast, the water is shallow. When you go deep inside an ocean or deep into the seas, then the water becomes deep. Okay, but near the coastline, you have shallow water. So basically, INS Arnala will be used to destroy submarines, and it will operate close to India's coast. So therefore, it is very important for coastal security. Okay, that is why it is called ASW-SWC. Now you understand, anti-submarine warfare, shallow water craft, was commissioned into Eastern Naval Command of Indian Navy. The commissioning event marked the formal induction of the first of the 16 ASW-SWC class ships into the Navy. So India will have 16 such ships. The first ship is INS Arnala. Now what is the significance of INS Arnala? Please listen to me carefully because this information can be used in mains answer writing. It will be used for anti-submarine warfare, strengthen coastal defense. Why? Because like I said, it is a shallow water craft, so it will operate close to the coastline, protect India's coastline, solidify India's position as a maritime power in the Indian Ocean region. Okay. Now, what are some of the capabilities of INS Arnala? Okay, about INS Arnala. So it is named after the historic Arnala fort of Vasai in Maharashtra. Okay, it is largest Indian naval warship to be propelled by diesel engine water jet combination. Diesel engine, it works on diesel engine. INS Arnala and the 15 other ASW-SWC class of ships to be inducted, they will replace earlier class of corvettes, ships, Abhay class of ships. Okay, according to the Navy, the warship incorporates, and this is very important, 80% indigenous content. Okay, this ship has 80% indigenous content. Very good news for Make in India. Okay, now what are some of its special capabilities? It is used for anti-submarine warfare. Now it has a very good ergonomic design. By ergonomic design means the design of the ship is such that it can easily maneuver in the waters. Okay, the design is such, that is known as ergonomic design. It can move swiftly, so it can beat other enemy ships. Other enemy ships, big enemy ships, would be large and slow. This would be swift because of its design. It has advanced mine laying capabilities. What is a mine? So under the sea you will lay a mine, and when enemy ships would cross that area, it would explode. So advanced mine laying capabilities, plus like I said, it is a shallow water craft. So coastal defense against unmanned underwater vehicles. You must have heard about drones. Drones are UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles. There are unmanned underwater vehicles also, unmanned submarines, okay, which are operated from remote controller, okay. It will provide good defense against unmanned underwater vehicles, which is being used by Ukraine and many other countries to fight wars. So India will be prepared against these UUVs. Clear? So this is INS Arnala, and that's all you need to know as far as this topic is also concerned. Today's newspapers were not that hectic when it comes to UPSC preparation or civil services preparation, because not many news items of significance were there. Nonetheless, well, these were the important news items that we discussed, and with that we conclude today's session. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I'm sure it has added value to your preparation. But like I say this every time, it will add more value if you're consistent and regular with this lecture series. Plus, you revise this lecture from the notes provided by us. So please do not forget to revise. And on that note, I'll be signing off with the promise of seeing you again with another set of news items. Thank you, everyone.